What is good, everybody? Welcome back to the Blitz City Podcast. I'm your host, Kobe Ord. This is another episode of FBS Fridays. And, of course, we got our main guys, okay? So we got Kelly Flicks from the Lace Up Podcast, okay? We got Blue. Y'all already know Blue from the Blue Bloods Podcast. And we have a special guest joining us tonight. Clay could not make it, okay? He was in Charleston today. He was working. Couldn't get home in time enough. We'll see him next week. But we got Jason Watkins from the Hall of Fame College Football Show on YouTube. What's going on, fellas?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on, man. I enjoy you guys' show, so I appreciate you guys having me.
Hey, listen, the same way I enjoyed being on your show last night, man, I couldn't wait to have you on tonight, though.
Hey, man, thank you.
All right, so I want to start with a guy who I can't stand, but Acho. I don't like his takes. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't like the man's takes. Maybe y'all do. I just don't. But he said something on Twitter, and he stood by it on TV. Let's bring it up. He said, with national championship hopes gone, Caleb Williams should consider sitting out the rest of the season. The Heisman is a long shot. College football players are even less likely. He won't even play in a bowl game. Like, he's basically saying Caleb Williams should sit out. He has nothing to play for. How do y'all feel about this? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I thought it was crazy, but how do y'all feel?
I mean, man, look, if he gets injured or not, he's still going number one. I don't think this whole injury question mark makes a difference between how good Caleb Williams is or how good scouts perceive him to be. I chose always, out of left field with it. But I'll say this. Caleb Williams signed up to play football and understood the injury risk during week one. Quitting during the middle of the season really wouldn't bode well for a USC program with a new head coach.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the thing that got me is we went from a day or two before his agent was talking about, man, we need ownership shares of whoever drafts me. And then less than 24 hours later, we're promoting quitting during the middle of the season. It's like we gotta pick a side here, because that's going to be a tough negotiation when you're quitting on your team mid-season. Well, what team wants to give you ownership shares? If we're not winning, are you going to sit out for a new contract? Are you going to request a trade, and now you have partial ownership shares of this team you're trying to leave? That it makes no sense, man. I think I'm cool with maybe sitting out a pointless bowl game. Like, I get it. Sitting out that bowl game at the end of the year, I'm fine with. But quitting on your team before the month of November, when you're still technically not eliminated from the Pac-12 race, when you still have stats to put up, you can still go win the Heisman. It's just, there's the only benefit of sitting out is protecting yourself from injury. But he hasn't really had injury issues in his career. I mean, so I don't see the concern. I think, like you said, it was kind of a hot take for clicks, and everyone's kind of went so player friendly that it's almost like a who can be more player friendly contest in the media now.
Right.
And we've gotten all the way to the point where we are promoting players quitting on their team in the name of protecting draft stock, which at the end of the day, if we're going to do that, if you're not playing well and the college is tired of paying your scholarship, then let me have that scholarship money back. We're going to give it to a guy who can actually ball out. So at the end of the day, like, there's a give and take. If you're going to give players that freedom to just quit mid-season, give the schools the same ability.
You know what, Jason, before you go, I even saw somebody made a great point. I don't know if this was made on your show last night, but I think somebody said, like, think about the guys on that offense who literally need you for their own draft stock. Like, I just thought that was a great point too. But go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know how you would want to choose a guy number one overall if he's going to quit on his football team. Is that what you want from your quarterback of the future? It's and particularly, I think you're right about that. I'm not sure where that take came from, but I like it. There's guys that definitely need him to be out there to get that thing going. Obviously, they haven't had nothing from Nico yet. They haven't even gotten him any snaps so far. So, I mean, I could see them getting him snaps or whatever, but we're talking about going up against, after this weekend, they've got the three best teams in the conference, the rest of the way. So it's to me, I think it's ridiculous. And I think Emmanuel Acho is a clown, man. It is definitely, that was a click thing. You know what I mean? It's just he's a Texas guy, man. They ain't got no love for those dudes. but no, it's just honestly, I think that, and I think if anything, I think it's all, I can see what they're talking about and everything, but I think that this is all just kind of points as to what is really going on within that program with Lincoln Riley. I mean, everybody that talks about how great they are and blah, blah, blah. If you were an Oklahoma fan, you knew better before this all came about. You knew better. And, we've seen it. We've all watched this same story, the same movie every year since 2017, all offense. Guy thinks that they can win, with one phase of the game being good at it, and the rest of it doesn't really matter to him. And so I think that if anything, what I've seen, that Caleb needs to work on some things like reading the defense and not, it's almost like they're not even getting him any easy throws, nothing that's right off of that third step, getting it out, no slants. He's running around for his dear life. As far as getting injured, I can see it because their line isn't protecting him very well. But I also think that it's partly Lincoln's fault by not running Marshawn Lloyd hardly at all. You can blame it on the defense if you want to, but there's a lot more to it than just that defense, I think. I don't know. I think that he could learn a few things. I was watching that show with Jordan Palmer has that QB Room show, and they had DJU on that show, and he was talking. They were so freaking blown away by how much he was learning to read the defense and how far ahead he was of everybody else. I don't think that they're reading more than half the side of the defense at USC at all. And it just seems like Caleb's he's getting some bad habits of this from this hero ball. I don't know that not playing helps him. I really don't see that.
That's actually a good point. I feel like, and I don't know him, so I don't want to put anything on him, but I feel like he's starting to get this complex, man. This complex just because of, just how well he's been in his notoriety in college football. But, we'll see what happens. So let's talk about Ohio State. After a lackluster start, right, and not by losing, but just by their performance, especially that Indiana game, there's number three in the nation, still undefeated. And they just came off of a big win versus Penn State, which I really thought they were going to lose. I picked them losing. Did we write them off too soon? Do y'all feel like they were written off too soon? I feel like the criticism was warranted based on how they were playing at the time. Versus Indiana, that was a horrible game. It should not have happened. I was not a believer in Kyle McCord. I really wasn't. It's just now they've turned around, but I still want to ask the question, do you think they were written off too soon?
A little bit. For good. I think people had a reason to be critical, like you said, because the evidence that we had at that point suggested that they weren't playing good football, but every week they just kept getting better, kept finding ways to win games. Let's be honest, at the time they beat Notre Dame on the road, Notre Dame was rolling. Then they go and beat a good Penn State team where everyone was saying, man, we talked in the preseason on this show, a lot of people thought this was the best Penn State team in like 10 years.
Right.
So they keep finding ways to win, even if it's ugly. And I'll be honest with you, McCord's playing some really good football. A lot better than a lot of people were giving him credit coming into the season. I want to say 12 touchdowns, only one pick. We know what Henderson is at running back, and I don't think we could say enough about Marvin Harrison Jr., but also the defense is playing extremely well too. I think that's an underrated part, is where that defensive line is starting to find its rhythm, get after the quarterback, create a lot of negative plays, and they have some playmakers in the back end of that defense. I still question how they match up with Michigan, because we've seen the past 2 years, even with all this talent, that downhill running style of Michigan with how good JJ McCarthy's playing right now. I think that right now Michigan probably is the best team in the country, in my opinion. It's going to be very interesting to see how they go on the road and face that, but I would not be surprised if Ohio State finishes the year 11-1.
Could be possible. One thing I will say about Ohio State, they benefit a lot from this soft Big Ten schedule. The Big Ten is not the Big Ten of years past. If you just look at the schedule remaining, you still got Rutgers and teams like Minnesota on this schedule. So, I take it with a grain of salt as far as Ohio State. They're undefeated. they've come up and they won some big games that sometimes I thought they couldn't get. Nico mentioned beating Maryland. I mean, Maryland was rolling at the time. They looked good. Same way with Penn State, same way with Notre Dame. So they have come up and they have shown up during these big games. They've checked that box off my list. I think Kyle McCord, to me, I want to see a little bit more of him. I've seen some people put him in like a deep top 8 Heisman ranking. Not ready to do all that yet. I'd like to see him a little bit more. But with the pieces that they do have offensively, you got to think that maybe they do have a shot at the playoff. And when this defense is actually playing out there with intensity, with speed, and not thinking too much, they're actually pretty good, right? There's a couple of big prospects on the defensive line that have begun to show up now in these bigger games. So I think Ohio State, honestly, is beginning to rise to the challenge. I think the fact that Ryan Day is still there at Ohio State is helping a lot. You look around the Big Ten, a lot of other bigger coaches have not been there for either small portions of time like Jim Harbaugh or out like Mel Tucker, guys moving in new like at Wisconsin now. So things are kind of changing in the conference, but Ohio State and Ryan Day has them rolling right now.
Yeah, and I think obviously with the defense, I think that's the most important piece right there is they've only given up 8 touchdowns all season. They've got the number 3 scoring defense in the country. They're I want to say they're in the top 10 for sure in total defense as well. I think they're somewhere around 6. I mean, this been the main problem with Ohio State for a long time is the fact that they just haven't played any defense at all. You know what I mean? And obviously when you get Jim Knowles comes in and coming over from Oklahoma State, they had one of the better defenses in the country in 2021 under him. Took a year to kind of get it going, but it looks like it's kind of working out. And again, I do kind of agree with you on the softness of that Big Ten schedule. Now, obviously Maryland was undefeated whenever they played them, but it hadn't really worked out for them since then. But in the end, I think that I just feel like overall you got to look at it in terms of they're always going to be pretty good on offense. And I think that with McCord, he had to kind of get his feet under him. It's his first year as a starter, and they didn't even name him starter, well, at least officially didn't name him starter until right before the first game. So, I mean, it took him some time to kind of get his feet under him, I think a little bit, but when you go out there and you get wins over Notre Dame, and that Penn State, I mean, good grief, at what point is Franklin going to have to, like win one of these damn games, but but I mean, look, that's 2 big wins right there. And I think that, I mean, Michigan's definitely not playing anybody. So, I mean, it is what it is. I wouldn't be that surprised if Ohio State was to win, although I think that Michigan team is built to beat Ohio State. I'm not sure they're built to win a national championship, but I think they are built to beat Ohio State. But I think that the defensive side of it is what is the possible difference there. I mean, we know about Marvin Harrison Jr. and I mean their whole receiver room is ridiculous. But you got to have to play some D in order to have an opportunity at this thing. And I think that right now they look like they might be the better team between them and Michigan to me.
So let me ask y'all this. He's at Penn State, man. He's what, 1-9 versus Ohio State now?
Yeah.
When Michigan looked at John Harbaugh before he started getting these wins over Ohio State, he was putting together winning seasons, but he couldn't get over that hump. So people were starting to say, "Hey, at what point, like, do we consider you only being able to get us this far, and should we look further?" And now, kind of with Ryan Day, if Ryan Day isn't able to retaliate, Ohio State fans maybe start looking at him. At what point does Penn State start looking at old boy and say, "Hey, you're 1-9 versus Ohio State"?
Like 4-15 against them, Michigan and Michigan State, right?
Right. So at what point do they look at him and say, "Hey, man, is this as far as you can take us?" At like when should they start thinking we might got to look a little forward ahead to somebody who could probably get us over this hump? Because like imagine being a booster, giving this money to Penn State. You want to see a national championship team. You want to see the glory days return, but it can't happen because you can't get over Ohio State consistently. Like at what point do they look at Penn State and say, "Okay, man, we appreciate what he's done."
Didn't they just re-up him though? Didn't they just re-up his deal?
Yeah, because I mean, he went on and won the Rose Bowl last year. And And I mean, you got to think he's won one conference championship. He won in what, 2016.
Mm.
He's had
that was the 3 losses or something like that. Wasn't
yeah,
it?
they went 11-3 that year. Lost the Rose Bowl. I want to say it was that USC game that was just insane that year in the Rose Bowl. But he's got 4 11-win seasons since 2016. He's probably going to have an 11 to 10 win season this year. And the thing that I think saves him over Harbaugh is Penn State's rivalry with those two teams is not the same as that Ohio State Michigan rivalry. Like, there's only a few rivalries that have that effect on coaches where you can fire a guy who's getting 10, 11 wins a year. It's Texas, Oklahoma, Auburn, Alabama, and Ohio State, Michigan. Those are the only 3 rivalries in college football that literally can cost you a job, winning 10, 11 games a year if you don't win that game. Possibly that Georgia-Florida rivalry or someone like that as well. But those are the main 3. Clemson, South Carolina has had that effect at times, but those are the main 3. Penn State doesn't have a true rival like that. And I think that's what's saving Franklin, because they're not going to fire a guy who's going 11-2 and getting to the Rose Bowl every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
I don't see him doing it. I don't see him doing it either. And I think, like you were saying earlier, and I mean, we've brought this up a bunch. I mean, the thing about it is what are they really? Are they really a major player in the national picture? Now, obviously, when you start the 12-team playoff next year, they're going to get in the playoffs if they go get 11 wins. They're going to get in. You know what I mean? But will they continue to do that now that you got Oregon coming in and Washington coming in? You know, now you just added 2 other teams that are pretty good. This is, you know, you're not going to just be able to slide through and beat the Indianas of the world and Northwestern there all the time, and even Nebraska, and just look like you're pretty good. You know, you're going to get tested. Hey, look, Chip is doing a pretty good job at UCLA too, and Dante Moore is the real deal. You know, and they've put together a defense that kind of looks like a Big Ten defense to me. You know, it's just I would say that, you know, I don't trust and believe in USC so much right now, but I mean, you know, you would expect at some point they're going to get that together. And still, I just think that the Big Ten is changing. But if he can continue to win 11 games, he's going to be in the playoffs. So at that point, of course, they're not going to let him go. I don't understand why you would keep him around if you really want to win a national title. But I think you're right, too. They're independent, being independent for as long as they were. It just didn't make them. They don't really have a rival, a real rival in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and that expanded playoff is going to save a lot of jobs. I don't think people talk about that enough. Yeah. The college football playoff expansion is going to save a lot of jobs. Because I mean, I'm looking right here. James Franklin would have 4 college playoff appearances right now if it was at 12. Mm-hmm. We're having a whole different conversation if he has 4 playoff appearances on his resume, even with the losses to Ohio State, Michigan. So you're looking at, I mean, think about the coaches that right now would have a job for the college football playoff. Gus Malzahn would still be at Auburn because he'd have 3 playoff appearances. I mean, Edo has some external stuff, but he's probably still at LSU right now. Like, the list goes on and on. So I think that's going to save a lot of coaches' jobs that probably can't get it done. Like, think about what Mark Richt could possibly be doing if Georgia had the 12-team playoff through the mid-2000s.
Yeah, they were winning 10 games a year every year, 10 or 11 games a year. That's crazy. Yeah.
That definitely helps. And I'll say this too, you know, a guy that's been there so long, like James Franklin, you know, I think with Penn State, part of it is he got us through some tough times, right? Let's let him lead us to the promised land. And look, we're at like year 9 right now, right? So it's real questions are going to arise about him. But I think also a big part of this is the fact that he inherited a program that was down in the dumps and almost had the death penalty, right? After the Joe Pa days and everything that came after that, James Franklin inherited this program and really turned this into something, you know, bringing in guys like Allen Robinson. So I think it's a little bit of the, you know, that's my guy, right? Like, that's really my guy. He got me out of a jam. So I don't know how many, you know, 11-win seasons going to take to fire him, but I think it'll have to be a real administrative change to really think like, okay, we want to win college football playoff games.
Yeah, they don't act exactly like how, I mean, it's not like the boosters around there or Texas or you know, Florida or somebody like that they're quick with that trigger, you know what I mean? I mean, here they are in year 2 and Florida's what, they've lost twice and they've talked about firing Billy already, you know what I mean? You know, and he's recruiting in the top 5. So it's kind of wild that but that's not exactly what it is at Penn State. You know what I mean? I feel like I don't see it really coming anytime real soon. Now, when those new teams come in, if they don't make the playoffs because they're losing to Oregon and Washington and stuff like that, then you could see it possibly happening. But I think right now he's recruiting well enough and winning enough games. He's only losing to Michigan and Ohio State right now.
All right. Now this next topic happened like a week ago, maybe 2. But I didn't get a chance to get Blue's perspective on it. And Jason, now that you're here, I want your perspective on it too. We know the meltdown that happened.
No, it's under 4-6. Just take a knee. Like, you should not be handing this football off.
Right.
I don't know what Miami is doing.
That's it. And here's Chaney. The straight ahead, tackled, and the ball popped out.
You got to read the clock. Read the card. To me,
Georgia Tech has it with 26 seconds left.
Information there to change this.
Here's Jeff Easer.
After further review, the ruling on the field stands. First down, Georgia Tech.
So with 26 seconds left, Miami commits its
and clock the football.
Singleton, the fastest of the receivers, to the top of the screen. Here's King from the pocket. Flush to his right with 6, 5. Going to loop it downfield. And ball is caught. Touchdown, Georgia Tech. With 1 second to go.
I need y'all's. Me and Kelly talked about it last show. And Kelly, if you want to reiterate, please do for the people watching. But I need y'all's reaction to this. I need it.
There's so many layers. I mean, like, where do we start? Because one, it wasn't a fumble, so it was a bad call by the refs in the first place because he was absolutely down. In every shot he was down. So that's 1. 2, Mario Cristobal has done this multiple times. He did it at Oregon. So it was like, you didn't learn your lesson. And what are we doing? Just take a knee. And then 3, he did it last week, kind of too, letting the clock run out against Clemson with a chance to not take that game to overtime and just accidentally let the clock run out on the 38 with the timeout. And let the clock run out and they go to overtime. Now, it ended up working out in his favor because they beat Clemson, but it didn't have to go to overtime. You could have at least taken some shots. And then the last point is, is a safety? What are we doing letting someone get behind all 3 deep safeties in a prevent type coverage? What are we looking at? Because there was no play action. Like, he's not going to run it in that situation. He's looking to go downfield. If he runs it, let him scramble for a few yards. That's cool. I'll take a Hail Mary over what that was. So there's just so many layers to it. But at the end of the day, someone's got to take game management out of his hands. Whether it's the assistant head coach, whether it's the offensive coordinator, hell, give it to the defensive coordinator because he's not doing anything at the time when we have the football. Someone else has to be the game manager because Mario Cristobal consistently gets it wrong. And it's almost like I saw a few tweets that I kind of agree. It's like almost like he wants to get fired. He's trying his best to lose some of these games because it doesn't. Football IQ would assume that you would understand situational football, and it's just bad all around, man. I don't know what else to say. When you do it more than once, because I did like some research after. I was looking up like the worst ways to win a game. Mario Cristobal ranks up there with, what was it, the Syracuse head coach that called the spike play on 4th down, and they lost it like that. And then you had the Texas Tech kid who, when they blocked the field goal against Kansas a few years back, he went to lateral it after the blocked field goal, fumbled it, and then Kansas kicked the game-winning field goal on the second try. He's got 2 blunders that rank probably in the top 5 worst ways to lose a football game. Man, I don't know what to do, but Miami's got to take that situation out of his hand.
Yeah, you add all that stuff up, it's almost like they threw the freaking game.
Yeah,
when you start thinking about you got 3 deep over there, and that guy gets behind them. How does that happen? And that's after the fact. There in no way in hell they should have ever done anything but be in that victory formation and on a knee right then and there. There's no reason to run that. What is the point there? What are you getting at? Even if you broke it for a touchdown, it would still be stupid. It would still be stupid. So, I can't even understand it myself. I don't think they're going to fire him over it because he is recruiting well. And I mean, obviously they went in and got a win over Clemson this last week, but good grief, man. Why? It just doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah. No, that's super sloppy. We talked about it before, Kobe. Super sloppy. You look at a guy like Cristobal. It seemed like he had all the answers coming from Oregon, but I think he looks at his players differently than how his players are actually, right? Like in reality, I think that he really thinks a lot of these guys, and part of it is you got to understand you're rebuilding a program. You know what I mean? I don't know how many rebuilds Miami has to go through. They've been through a bunch of them, but you're part of the next one. And when you're being a part of that, you have to understand that this team doesn't know how to win. And if you give them a chance to lose, they will lose because that's what usually happens with Miami.
Absolutely.
So, even seeing them beating Clemson this past week was a good win for them. But with Cristobal, it almost brings me shades of like Brandon Staley and what he's been doing at the Chargers, to where you just think so much more of your team than they actually are. Like, why are we going for it on fourth down on our own 20 right now? Stuff like that really makes you question your coach. After the game, one of the players, you can see him on the sideline going, why? Why did we do that?
The offensive lineman, right?
Yeah. Guys with high football IQs and players, they will end up turning on you after a while after seeing stuff like this. And, hey, look, I think Mario Cristobal has to be on the lookout for something like that and understand that you can't keep taking chances with these guys. You're playing with a team that has seniors on it. Guys have been there for 4 years. They really want to beat this team. Maybe they always beat Georgia Tech. And now we just lose it because our coach is feeling himself for a second? No way. No way.
You know what the most shocking thing is? Because when I think of Saban assistants, they all haven't been successful, but they all have really high football IQ. They can manage a game. Like you think of the Kirby Smarts. I mean, now off the field, not so much, but Mel Tucker was doing a great job at Michigan State. You think of all these guys that have high football IQ. Yeah. How in the hell was Mario Cristobal the associate head coach under Nick Saban? Nick Saban would have had a murder charge if someone would have done this at Alabama.
Could you imagine Nick Saban hearing that coming through his headset and being like, "What the hell did you just say? You better get in that victory formation before you're out of a job before this game's over."
Someone would have been fired at the press conference. He would have done it publicly.
Oh, dude, it would have never come to that. I can't even imagine that. It makes zero sense. Zero sense.
Wow. When it was announced that he was leaving Oregon, I was very upset because I was like, "Oh, he's a great recruiter. Why are we losing him?" He had questionable decisions when it came to games. We choke a little bit, but I was like, "Man, he's a great recruiter. I like Cristobal. Why is he leaving for a dream job in Miami? What don't we have? What can't we give him that Miami can give him?" And then I seen that, and I was
lucked up into Dan Lanning.
I lucked up. Thank God that happened, man. So yeah, I agree with y'all. But Heisman race. Let's talk about that. Michael Penix Jr. Where is he after that performance versus Arizona State? After barely beating Arizona State, where is he in your Heisman race? And should JJ McCarthy be number one? I only asked about JJ McCarthy because I've seen other people say it. He's not number one for me. For me personally, and Jason, I said this on your show last night. Why isn't Jaden Daniels considered to be number one? Is it the losses? It has to be, because
I think so.
Statistically, he's top 3 in every major statistical category. Why isn't he number one?
He's the only reason LSU hasn't lost 5 games, man. With that defense, there's no reason that they haven't lost that many. They should have lost a lot. They should have lost that game in Missouri. I mean, seriously, I think Jaden Daniels is probably the guy. I like Dylan Gabriel as well, but I think Penix kind of hurt himself here. You know what I mean? When you go out there and don't have a touchdown and it takes a pick 6 for you guys to win, I realized it was coming off of the thing about it is coming off of a rivalry win. You could expect a letdown there in some aspects of it, but you kind of hope that you would have kind of hoped that he would have played a little better. Now he's got a couple of games left and possibly a Pac-12 championship game that he could maybe get that back. But no, I don't think that McCarthy's the guy for sure. I would go with, it's either to me, obviously Dylan Gabriel has a Heisman moment, winning, getting that 1 minute drive to go down and win against Texas in that big game. Obviously OU hasn't played the best schedule in the world either though. So, I've said this consistently myself on my show is that in order for DG to win, they got to win every game. They got to win them all. So they're going to have to get all the way through 13-0 to be able for him to win the Heisman. But I think that Penix is probably. I think Jaden Daniels is number one myself. And then it would be, and I still think Penix is around there. You know, they still haven't lost a game, but it's a good thing they didn't, because he didn't look very good last week.
I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority. I still give Penix number one. It's like he had a singular bad game, but it's still thrown for like 2,500 yards, completing 70% of his passes, 20 touchdowns. I mean, he's doing everything he's supposed to. I think if they go on and win out, it'll be hard not to give it to him, because I think Jaden Daniels would be my number two, but we all know what the voters are going to look at. When it's that close, they give it to the player on the better team that has the more wins, regardless if it's right or not. That's how it usually goes. But I will say, like, JJ McCarthy is so interesting to me because he's not flashy. We all know that he has a lot of help around him, and we think of Michigan as like a run first team. But if you really go and like look at how he's played, look at his stats, he leads the country, or is like top 5 in the country in a lot of key things. I mean, passer rating, efficiency, touchdowns, completion percentage. Like, he's playing out of his mind. And I think the thing that I do put him in my top 3 for is, I don't know if there's a person on the panel or in the chat that can name a like great wide receiver on Michigan right now. They don't have that elite guy at wide receiver that he can lean on. Let's be honest. Washington has 3 guys that are probably first round draft prospects right now in that wide receiving core. You look at Jaden Daniels, 2 of the best wide receivers in the country. Malik Neighbors, I think, might be top 2, and I think is getting slept on in terms of a prospect. So I do think, as much as McCarthy has to O-line the running game, he doesn't have the ceiling of the wide receiving room that a Daniels or a Penix has right now. But I think those are the 3 guys right now. But I would still lean Penix, just because I do think he's done enough to kind of excuse his one bad game, but he has to bounce back this weekend.
Hey, I'm glad y'all been saying those 3 names. Those are 3 names that I've been thinking of when it comes to the Heisman: Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels. Those are really my guys. I think despite, those low performances in those games, even Caleb Williams' low performance against Notre Dame, these guys are still top 5 statistically when it comes to top yards, top in touchdowns. All these guys have less than like 3 interceptions, right? They're playing out of their mind. With Michael Penix, he played a tough game against Arizona State. To me, it doesn't affect him in my Heisman rankings. I would still keep him at 1, just like Blue, partly because he's been so much better than everybody else. Just going through the numbers and seeing him out there playing, his ceiling is so much higher than a lot of these guys, even a guy like JJ McCarthy, when you think about it. So to me, Michael Penix is in the lead for now because Caleb Williams past 2 weeks has stumbled. A guy like Jaden Daniels, to me, is in the mix because he is LSU at this point in time. And I think Jaden Daniels is having one of those really coming out years, right? Before the season, when I was talking about Jaden Daniels, I've seen him for the past like 4 years. I thought that, he's a low volume guy. He's showing that I'm actually a high volume guy. I'm actually a winner. I'm a guy who can build a team around and win games. So to me, Jaden Daniels is really a big figure for this LSU team. So I put him in my top 3. Jordan Travis is kind of on the outside looking in, kind of at 4. I feel like Florida State's going to end up being a playoff team. But with Jordan Travis, I just want to see more. His development has been great. He looks so much better.
Yeah, he's got to throw it better.
Exactly. And he's also playing with, some all-star guys out there. He's playing with 6'7" Johnny Wilson, 6'5" Keon Coleman. You kind of have some advantages on other teams in the ACC.
No, yeah. And I mean, like you said, with Jaden Daniels, I mean, he's 3 yards behind Michael Penix, but he's got 5 more touchdowns. He's only thrown 3 picks to 5 for Michael Penix. So, I mean, really, when you look at the passing yards, I mean, look, he's getting it done. Caleb Williams has dropped off a little bit, but he's still only got 4 interceptions on the season. 3 of them came against Notre Dame. Shedeur Sanders, I mean, as much as you'd love to see them get a little more love for him, because he's right up there. He's got, 2,400 passing yards, 21 TDs, only 3 picks.
Ridiculous.
I mean, he's still, I mean, and that just, I mean, this is a tough go for them at Colorado. But, I mean, yeah, I think that Jaden Daniels, when it was like they took the ball out of his hand in the second half of the Florida State game anyway. But he's gone out there and balled out every game, and that's got to be the worst secondary in the SEC. You know what I mean? It's just it's a terrible secondary. And if they had a secondary, I mean, imagine what they might be doing. You know what I mean?
They're missing all 4 starters next weekend.
Yeah. God, please, man.
Wow. And you know, before we get into picking games, there was one other question, right? After Marvin Harrison Jr., because he's clearly the top dog, if you need a wide receiver and you're an NFL team, you're a GM, who is it really that clear on who you take after him? Because I've seen like Stephen J says Luther Burden. I like Luther. I wouldn't take him. I probably wouldn't take him over
Marvin
Unzi from Washington, but I've seen people say, what's that 6'5" kid, Kelly? You just said him from
Keon Coleman.
Keon Coleman, you got him.
Malik Neighbors has 981 yards.
Who would be the guy for you after Marvin Harrison Jr. comes off that board?
I'm biased. Listen. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Luther's got to come back. He's a sophomore. So Luther has the highest ceiling. Like, I think this is going to sound crazy. If Luther wasn't playing for Missouri, he'd be a more hype prospect than Marvin Harrison Jr. But I'm just going to throw that out there. But I love Keon Coleman's tape. If he wasn't banged up these past few weeks, he would be in the Heisman race too. He is a problem. I mean, 7 touchdowns already, and his ability to win those one-on-one matchups is an issue. And if Jordan Travis could just be a little bit more consistent throwing the football, this kid would have unbelievable stats. And I just think, based on the film, I love Keon Coleman's game. He has the size, the speed, the ability to win the one-on-one matchups, and his route running is amazing. I think Keon Coleman's wide receiver 2 for me right now.
Did you see how high he got in the air for that catch? Well,
and got hit. Got hit and still came down with it one-handed.
Baller. Dude's a baller. I like Malik Neighbors a lot, though, too, man. Again, he's got 9 touchdowns, 981 yards. I mean, obviously that goes right along with, you know, he's playing with Jaden Daniels, but that dude's a baller too, man. And so to me, it's hey, man, this is a quarterback award, though. I don't even know why we're really talking about receivers here because none of them are going to win it.
No.
You know, this is kind of how it is. But I mean, and that being said, I think that receiver wise, yeah, there's a lot of really good ones out there though too. And you know, Luther Burden is a baller, man. That dude is a straight up baller.
Yeah. Now, well, taking a look at these different lists, the prospect lists and everything like that, it's kind of tough, right? This wide receiver class is very different than last year's wide receiver class. All these guys here are over 6 feet, 6'2". That's the size. Last year, it was a bunch of Zay Flowers, Jaden Reed, 5'10" type guys. These guys are more your alpha X receiver type of guys. But I think Keon Coleman, you got to go with Keon Coleman. The playmaking ability is up there. I think when it comes to draft time, things may change if a guy like Neighbors comes out and runs a faster 40 time. You know, when it comes to testing and things, that may change. But just looking at them, these guys, when they play in the game, it's hard not to want a guy like Keon Coleman. His catch radius is ridiculous. It's probably to his toes to about maybe 2 feet over his head, right? Something like that. You just put the ball in the vicinity and let him go.
Yeah, it kind of reminds you when they had back in the day, whenever Megatron, they were showing the garage, the 2-car garage. That was his radius of catching footballs, man. And that's just kind of what you look at. This is a big kid, and like you said, I mean, he goes and gets everything. Just a baller, straight baller. This receiving class is unreal. I mean, think about it. And Marvin, I mean, we ain't even talking about Marvin Harrison. You know what I mean? We're not even talking about him. And this dude is balling out too. He's got 6 touchdowns, 700 yards. And they have a hell of a room there too with Mbuka and everything else there too. That these guys are good. I mean, there's a lot of really good football players out there.
About Mbuka, I forgot about him. I should have.
That's a room right there, bud. That's a room.
And then think about, as a true freshman, that freshman over at USC is an issue too.
Oh my God!
If he can stay healthy, oh my God, man, that kid's
kicked to him last week. I was like, what the hell are y'all doing?
Yeah, I'm kicking it into the stands. Like, someone in the front row's got to catch it. But shout out to Mr. Gaddy in the chat, man.
Yeah, shout out to Mr. Gaddy, man. All right, let's go over a quick recap of last week. I want to start off with the one that shocked everybody, kind of, North Carolina and Virginia. What y'all think of that?
I mean, what you want me to say? I mean, this is literally North Carolina's MO. We're gonna be rolling.
Fair.
We're gonna get as soon as y'all start to trust us. Yeah, we're gonna show y'all exactly what we are. We're gonna go lose to Virginia, who probably had the papers ready to fire Tony Elliott ready on the printer after the game, and he wins this, and now they got to shred it. You just killed a bunch of trees for no reason. This is just ridiculous. I mean, Drake May completed 50% of his passes against Virginia.
What are they doing? Worst freaking football team in FBS.
I do want to say shout out to my guy Tony Muskett though, man. I got to talk to he transferred in from Monmouth this offseason, man. It was good to see him get a win. I always love the FCS guys balling out, but it's been a tough season for Virginia. And I don't know. I mean, their secondary let Malik Washington go for like 115 on them.
Insane, bro.
Wow.
I don't know what to say.
All right, guys, say it with me. The ACC is trash.
Overrated, trash.
Very much so. Very
Yeah.
much. So I think Big 12 though.
We'll talk about that another week. But the Big 12 commissioner had a lot to say about Texas, so they got a lot of trash stuff going on down there.
Facts.
All right, USC, Utah, man.
Oh,
32-34.
Told y'all. Kobe, what did I say? What was it in March on the show? I said USC will never beat Utah because Lincoln Riley cannot do it.
I called 4 losses before the season ever started, right on Coach O's show. I called 4 losses, and they might end up with 5.
They lost to a walk-on quarterback.
Bro.
A walk-on. Dude,
no lead is safe. No lead is safe with USC.
I hate this. I hate this for Utah, though, guys. Think about how good this team could be if Cam Rising was healthy.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
But hey, this is Lincoln Riley. This is what that's what USC wanted to pay like $200 million for. Did it at Oklahoma, is going to do it at USC.
And we're not going to see him this season, right?
Who? Oh, Cam. He's out. Yeah, he's out. He announced it after the game that he's out. So
yeah, he's out for the season, but he's talking about coming back in 24, which is going to be crazy if Utah could get him back for another year.
Yeah, tough loss for USC, man. I think USC still may be in the hunt for that Pac-12 title, but they're gonna start putting together some wins like fast. You know, on the good side, it's nobody hurt. That's not the reason why we're losing, right? It's particularly on play on the field. And I'm not gonna lie, I think USC just keeps getting grinched. They can't escape it, right? Alex Grinch is the defensive coordinator. You can't get away from him. Lincoln Riley wants to defend him every week. It is what it is, and
he catches all his strays, bro. He catches all his strays.
I just want to know what Grinch has on Lincoln. He's got to have some text messages, some recruiting violations. Like there's something that because he wasn't good at Oklahoma.
No.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I mean, they're on a 2-game losing streak. They'll probably beat Cal. I'm gonna give them Cal because Cal is terrible. But there's no way I can predict them to beat Washington, and I definitely can't predict them to beat Oregon on the road with how Oregon's defense is coming together. There's no chance. You're losing both of those games, and I don't think UCLA is a guarantee with how Dante Moore's playing right now.
And they play defense, Blue. They play defense.
They got the best. They got probably a top 3 edge rusher in the entire country.
Yeah,
Latu is different.
Look, and Stephen G said it right there. They also have a freaking the P90X master at playing. That's their strength and conditioning coach, Benny Wiley. They're not gonna get. This is not gonna get better at USC. This is again. We've seen this. I've seen this movie over and over and over again. This is how they do things. And until Lincoln decides that, look, we have to play all 3 phases. He doesn't even have a special teams coach. They half-ass practice it, and they lose a lot of games because of it. You know what I mean? Going back to Oklahoma, the same thing. They lost the Cotton Bowl because of it. The one thing you can't do in that situation in the Cotton Bowl is get a safety and give the ball back. And that's what they did. The one thing you can't do. And it's always stuff like that all the time. And so this, as long as he thinks that he can continue to win, and it's just ego. But I still feel like, I'm saying again, Caleb Williams is kind of regressing a bit because he's having to play this hero ball. And at some point, when you have to do that, you're going to break down a little bit because every week, even leading up to that, they shouldn't have beaten Arizona. They shouldn't have. I mean, Arizona had them. And if you look at it, I mean, Marshawn Lloyd, how do you think that kid feels? He's not getting touches for shit. You know what I mean? The guy goes, he has a 50-yard touchdown, second play of the game for them or whatever, second or third play of the game for them. And he gets 10 touches for the rest of the game. What? You know, like, and that would help the defense right there. The fact is that they don't even try to play complementary football. They just don't. And you're going to see them. They're going to get smaller and smaller and smaller as long as Benny Wiley's there. Now, you are hearing out of the media over there in LA that they want them both gone, Grinch and Wiley. Now, whether or not that, you know, Lincoln's going to be willing to do that without going to, I don't know. I'm still wondering if he's not trying to pull something and get out of there with Caleb. But in the end, I mean, good grief. At some point, you would think that he would stop banging his head on the wall, but he hasn't yet.
Did you guys see the stat that they put up during the broadcast about Caleb Williams against top 25 total defenses?
Yeah.
Oh, what was it?
So against top 25 defenses, he has 5 starts, has only completed 51% of his passes for 172 yards per game, 6 interceptions, and 6 touchdowns.
Oh.
While he's averaging 317 against 9 top 25 teams, 78 touchdowns and 7 picks.
Indicative of Lincoln Riley football, man.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say
you got to just think about it. When he was at Oklahoma, I've said this a bunch. Hey, OU won all those freaking Big 12s in a row because the Big 12 was shitty then too. They were just bad. You know, I mean, everybody was leaving. And Texas has been irrelevant since 2019. They've only played for one conference title since then. And Okie Light is a perpetual, you know, underachiever too. It's just how it is. And I mean, if Baylor and K-State are winning as many conference titles or more than anybody else other than Oklahoma, it tells you a little something. And I like K-State, you know, but I mean, we're not talking about, you know, a blue blood there. You know what I mean?
Look at how they struggled against teams with good defenses or physical mindsets. They struggled. The Baylors to Kansas States to Oklahoma. When Oklahoma State finally got a defense under Gundy, it was a wrap for Oklahoma. And you saw they struggled toward the end. But, man, Kansas State beat them, 3 straight years as an unranked team?
3 out of 4 anyway, yeah.
And then Dave Aranda has mind control. If I'm a team in the Big Ten, I'm calling Aranda just for that game. Because
he owned him.
I don't think Lincoln Riley's ever had a team go over 200 total yards against a Dave Aranda defense, which is just insane to think about.
He beat them that first year when they only won 1 or 2 games or whatever it was. Baylor did, but after the half, they didn't do anything for the next 6 quarters against them.
And then he beat them when they went to the playoffs against an LSU. It was 60 to 14 game or whatever that was. It's terrible with Joe Burrow in them.
Yeah, that was not good. And nobody wanted to see that either. Everybody's like, oh no, not again. 3 years in a row, we're gonna get whooped in playoff. You could just see it coming, man. You could just see it coming. But it's just Lincoln Riley, man. This is just how he does it. And I think I do believe that Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in the country. I think he's the best player in the country. But I think that because of the way things are, and like I said, they're not even scheming any easy stuff for him, it doesn't seem like. And so, you know, he's having to run around. He's just waiting for somebody to get open deep and then chucking it downfield. That stuff isn't going to work whenever you get up against somebody that has a good enough pass rush that they're going to get home on some of them. Look at how Notre Dame, they beat the crap out of them just by getting to him. I mean, and it was just out physical them, right? Because Notre Dame, you know, they were good, but they hadn't been great since, you know. I mean, after they lost the Ohio State game, they didn't look good for the next 2 weeks after that. So, but boy, they sure looked good against USC because they just popped them in the mouth. They're soft. They're just soft. That's just all there is to it.
Yeah, no, that stat Blue brought up was a pretty good stat, and I think it is definitely indicative of the coaching situation down at USC because Lincoln Riley was also Caleb Williams' coach all those games. And I think that when it comes to, you know, relying on your playmakers just to extend plays at times, it doesn't always work. especially with better or equal talent. And in those top games, that's what we're seeing. Jace talked about like, how we feel about him in LA, and I'll keep it real. A lot of people are starting to hop off of this bus, right? Lincoln Riley isn't a very personable guy. He's in interviews telling guys pretty much to shut up, right? Like he's tired of answering certain questions about certain things. He even had a reporter kicked out like around week 2 because he thought he was doing some undercover stuff. So Lincoln Riley is becoming
that was like a feature story thing too, wasn't it? Like it wasn't even like that they were trying to do anything crazy. That dude's I know that guy. He's a good reporter.
Connor's good, and it's kind of weird, and it almost feels like maybe Lincoln Riley isn't fit out for like a LA, a place with a large media market, and we're starting to see like really the underbelly of what those Oklahoma teams were. Now that he's on a bigger stage, to me, playing at USC.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, and he did that stuff at Oklahoma too. He would shut down whenever they, they had the student newspaper had talked about who was it? Tell me in there, Stephen G. Somebody practiced and they didn't want it out there. They went and they glazed all the windows over in that area so that people in the dorms and all the buildings around there could not watch practices.
What?
Oh, bro, he's crazy. After the Red River game, when Caleb came in and engineered the biggest comeback in Red River rivalry history, he engineered 28-3. He wouldn't let him talk. He would not let Caleb talk to ESPN after the game. Wouldn't let him do it. It's just and he did the same thing this last week against Utah. None of the kids were available. Plaschke was pissed. Plaschke was pissed off. And so I mean, you gotta when Plaschke's on you now and it's year 2, it's not good. It's not good. Bill Plaschke, he's been in LA for a long time, being the voice of that newspaper. So I think the writing's on the wall, man.
I agree. That LA Times article was a lot. And it was big to see that other reporters are looking out for this young kid, and it really started to turn everybody against Lincoln Riley. And I feel like even since then, most people have been turned against Lincoln Riley, probably because of that defense, but also because of how sour he treats the media.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like I said, I still think Grinch is just taking all his bullets too. I mean, if you played a complementary style, I don't think that Grinch is any good either. But I would tell you that you're not helping him. You're not helping him get better. Run the football a little bit. Keep him off the field a bit. You know what I mean? They're 1/15th in time of possession. 1/15th, and you got the number 2 rated running back in Pro Football Focus, number 2, and he barely gets the ball. It's just weird to me.
All right, so let's move on to picks for next week because a lot of intriguing matchups, right? We're gonna start small. Duke, Louisville. I think that's a very interesting matchup, to be honest with you. Me personally, I think Duke needs to really prioritize stopping Jawar Jordan. I mean, the guy is averaging 7.4 yards a carry on the season. I think that's third amongst all running backs. You stop him, I think you have the best chance of winning because Duke's defense, if I'm not mistaken, is ranked the 7th highest according to Pro Football Focus. They like top 10. So yeah, you stop Jawar Jordan, I think the game is yours. To be honest with you, I think that's Louisville's saving grace. So I'm gonna go with Duke. On this one. Who y'all got?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going upset Duke. I think Riley Leonard's a game time decision. I got a feeling that he's going to try to give it a go. And if he plays at his potential, man, it unlocks a lot in Duke's offense. And their defensive line has been a problem. And I just think Louisville's kind of reeling from that loss against Pitt. It was a bad loss, and they really kind of got exposed in multiple different aspects of their game. I think Duke takes advantage. Give me Duke for the upset.
Yeah, I just like Duke. I just like them. I don't know. I don't know what it is about them. I just kind of like them this year. I was kind of rooting for them a little bit against Florida State last week. I'm going to take them again this week.
What up,
it's too bad that Riley Leonard got hurt in that game because I think they win otherwise, right? Mike Elko's done a hell of a job, man. Done a hell of a job. I do actually really like Louisville, though, as well. I mean, I think that they kind of, after winning the Notre Dame game, to go up there and lose to Pitt. But they do that once a year, don't they? Pitt does. They're going to knock somebody off that they're not supposed to beat pretty much every year. But I'll tell you, I like their coach at Louisville. if Riley Leonard isn't going to be healthy, I could see them winning that game. But overall, I would probably expect Duke to do it. But if Riley Leonard's not there, I would change my mind immediately.
Okay. All right. UGA versus Florida. UGA versus Florida. Brock is not available. So I do feel like Georgia's going to struggle a little bit without Brock.
Brock's what? He's out. Oh, Brock's out. Yeah.
So I do think they'll struggle a little bit there, which will give Graham Mertz a chance to keep it close. I'm not saying he'll do it, but maybe it'll give him opportunity. But nah, give me Georgia by like at least 2 scores.
Kobe, you just pump fake on us? Is that what you just did?
He's saving the face for Clay, man. That's what it is.
Yeah, I know you're watching.
Yeah. Graham Mertz has played well recently, but Kentucky laid the blueprint. They're going to run the football down Florida's throat, and Graham Mertz against good defenses. I'm sorry, man. I've seen this story before. Georgia is going to send the house. It's going to get ugly down in Jacksonville. Give me Georgia easily covering that 14.5.
Yeah, what he said. What he said. I'm good on that.
Facts. Yeah, I'm not believing this 5-2 record I'm seeing from Florida right now against a Georgia team. I don't think it really shows up.
I think it's very similar to what we saw when Kentucky thought that they were going to go in and get a win in Athens. We knew better than that, and you're not going to out Georgia. So good luck with that. No, they get beat. They get beat up.
Oh my gosh, I need to be trolling here. All right, Ohio State versus Wisconsin. Hey, Clay, I'm sorry too, man. I tried to give you your team a little bit of motivation, but it ain't work. Ohio State, Wisconsin, man. We all got.
Yeah, Ohio State. I mean, Wisconsin's offense has been super inconsistent. Ohio State's defense is catching fire at the right time. Marvin Harrison Jr. goes crazy again, man. Give me Ohio State. I think they cover too.
Yeah, I think that this is. I think that Wisconsin's going to be good, but it's not this year. I just think that it's a little early for them. And like you said, Ohio State's been playing really good for the last 4 or 5 weeks now, and they just continue to seem to be a little bit better. You know what I mean? Better every week, and I don't really think this is much of a game either.
Facts. Shout out to all my people in Cleveland and in Columbus, man. Big OH star them. Ohio State by a lot, man. I think if Wisconsin played them earlier in the season, they might have had a chance. But at this point right now, you don't want to play Ohio State. And I think Wisconsin's just walking into a trap.
Okay.
Yeah, buzzsaw.
Last one for overreaction, not overreaction. Oregon and Utah. Clearly, I know what my answer is.
Utah, right?
You're
picking Utah?
You got the Utes, huh? You got the Utes.
Oh, okay. Y'all funny.
Everything in my soul is telling me Utah is going to pull it off. Wow. I'll be honest. Oregon has struggled on the road, but it's just if they had a quarterback that wasn't a walk-on, I would pick them, but I just think that Oregon defense is going to be too much for that quarterback rotation. I think Utah is going to scare Oregon. I think this game could be 3 or less, and it's going to come down to the final moments. But I think Bo Nix, that rushing attack and that defense make enough plays down the stretch to come out with like a extremely close win.
Sonic, you finna get blocked, bro. I swear. Shut up.
So look, Kyle Whittingham is one of the top 3 coaches in the country, if you ask me. Yep. I think that and they are nasty in the trenches. They're nasty on defense. They're still playing a 3rd stringer walk on. I don't see and they're playing at home. So I mean, Rice Eccles is a tough place to go and play. I mean, ask anybody in the Pac-12, but I can't do it. I think that Oregon wins this one. I think it's obviously an elimination game, but so you're going to see the best of what Utah has, but they just don't have a quarterback that you can rely on. And the truth is, we talked about it last night, Kobe. You have to expect that. I mean, the defense has been so much better in Oregon this year, and you're starting to get some of the younger guys. Some of those freshmen are starting to do their thing on that D line too. I like Oregon in this. It's hard for me to pick Oregon in this, but I am.
I just feel like we're more balanced, man. We had time to get healthy on top of that. And if I'm being honest, I do feel like Utah gave it all they had versus USC last week. Like I felt like they gave that all last week. I don't know if they're gonna have it again this week. That's just me. I'm not saying
They look real good against the Alex Grinch defense, man.
I'm not saying we're gonna go in there and blow them out. It's a tough environment to play in. I know this, all right. But man, I think we got it. But go ahead, Kelly.
I mean, I'll say this: it wouldn't be the Pac-12 if Utah didn't win this game. Did you see Kyle Whittingham go out to ESPN this week? He came out, he rode a Harley Davidson the set. He had a cutoff vest on. He got the guns out. I'm feeling good about this Utah team, man. They played against UCLA. I think it might be kind of like that UCLA game. It was like 10-7. It came down to a Dante Moore pick 6, right? And really, with Utah, player for player, they can't match up with Oregon. That's not it. You can't compare Bo Nix to this walk-on. But one thing I will count on is Bo Nix not staying on one interception for the rest of the season. I think this might be a game where maybe he implodes a little bit. We're looking at a very big atmosphere going down to Salt Lake City in Utah. It's going to take some big balls for Bo Nix to come out of there with a W. We're going to see if he got him.
Kobe, go watch those road games with Bo Nix at Auburn, man. That could be in your future this weekend.
A return of Bo Picks? Is that what you're saying?
Wow.
I can smell it.
Okay. All right. I hope I'm available for a show next week. I really do.
Oh, if Oregon gets beat like South Carolina State got beat last night, man, Kobe's deleting all social media, man. That's a wrap.
Straight up. Straight up. We may never hear from him again. We may never hear from him again.
All right, so last day of the night, man. Overreaction, not an overreaction. Everybody know what it is. Jason, I mean, you know what it is. You saw it on TV. I say a statement. You tell me if it's overreaction, not overreaction in your opinion. Disclaimer: this is not from me. This is from the internet. I always have to say that because people, otherwise, they think this is from me. Overreaction, not an overreaction. Caleb Williams turns into Dak Prescott when the lights are brightest. Ooh. I saw this and I had to put it. I swear to God.
Yo. The memes are crazy.
Oh, I'm crying. Oh, God. I don't know if it's Dak Prescott, but when the lights are brightest, he is not the brightest.
Yeah. I look, overreaction. Okay, it's all fun to say, Caleb turns into Dak. Nobody wants to play Caleb Williams at the end of the day. That's why we got to put it.
Yeah, I think it's an overreaction. I still believe that Caleb Williams is the best player in the country. I just think he's in a bad situation. So, that being said, I think that he probably needs to get some work on reading defenses and stuff like that because you're not going to get away with some of the stuff that you get away with now, for sure, in the NFL.
Okay, all right. Overreaction, not an overreaction. The Bears should strongly consider drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. over Caleb Williams.
Don't they have the first 2 picks in the draft this year?
Do they have the first 2?
Right now?
1 and number 2?
It's like, maybe 1 and 2 or 1 and 3. Okay. They have the Panthers pick. Yeah.
If they have 1 and 2, it doesn't really matter. I guess you can if you want. But if you got 1 and 3, I think the quarterback class is deep enough that, both classes are deep enough. But, if you're not sold on Caleb Williams carrying your team or you have, any issues, I'm taking Marvin Harrison Jr. because I think he's more of a guarantee than Caleb Williams.
Go ahead, Jason, take it.
I guess that's assuming that I don't know. I think that Justin Fields is obviously not getting it done. But, what's the – yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I also feel like it's a situation where what are you going to see? Who are you bringing in? They got to be bringing in a new coach too, So is it going to be Lincoln? Is it going to? I don't know. If it's Lincoln, it's not going to happen. So that's going to be what it is. But that being said, I don't know. I think that I think that Marvin Harrison is a premier talent, but I still think that Caleb Williams is the best player in the country. I think that you got to go with him. Because Justin Fields hasn't been getting it done at all.
Yeah,
So
this is a great conversation. This is a kind of a tough one to me because
tough answer, right? Yeah,
you got a guy like Marvin Harrison. I think he makes pretty much any quarterback in the nation better, right? If he's just out there at receiver. So you could go that way, or you could just throw away Justin Fields and go for Caleb Williams and start it over. But I don't know. Not an overreaction. I think it'll definitely be something that'll be weighed in the draft process because at the end of the day, you got to find the best prospect.
Okay. Yeah. This last one, I don't even know how realistic this is, but it intrigued me. I don't think it's gonna happen. The NCAA brings down the hammer on Michigan, preventing them from competing for a natty.
Overreaction. They ain't gonna do it. That not this year.
I think it would have to be the Big Ten that do that. I could see that happening, but the NCAA moves like molasses. I mean, it'll take forever.
And I want to say the Big Ten announced today they're not getting involved with the punishment.
Oh, really?
All right. Well,
the
NCAA isn't going to do anything because they're gutless. And now I find that out. The Big Ten is also gutless. There's no way you just allow this team to go around for like 5 years and cheat and then go, what's cheating? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean what's cheating? This John Harbaugh has really made a career here at Michigan, right? And if this is the underbelly of Michigan, it's just full of cheating and this guy traveling week to week, getting flown out by Michigan, that's nasty. Something has to happen, man. From LA, man.
He was just buying tickets for anybody to just sit there and freaking film the sideline. It is crazy what was going on, but yeah, the NCAA is not going to do anything about it. But I think you're right. You're right.
This affects winning games. They took down USC for guys getting paid off the clock.
I'll give you that.
All right.
The problem with the NCAA, right, is that nothing is even. I mean, they don't treat two situations the same ever. You know what I mean? It just doesn't. I mean, you can't equate one thing to another because it's why it's time to move away from the NCAA. Period. You need to have a commissioner for the whole sport, for FBS football. That's just bottom line. And I think when you start talking about, I don't know if you have this on there or not, but this situation itself, why the hell do you not have freaking helmet communication for the quarterbacks? It just takes the whole thing away. It just doesn't matter at that point. It's the simplest thing in the world to do. And I don't want to hear about, well, there's some schools that can't afford it. If you're an FBS school, you can afford it. Don't give me that crap. If you don't do it at the lower levels, fine. But you need to do it at this level when you're, competing for national championships. It's just stupid.
I mean, how expensive is it actually? I mean, you need, 2 mics? Because you got your mic linebacker probably gets one, or your safety. And then you got one for the quarterback, and then you need just
put an AirPod in, for God's sakes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? What are you talking about?
I don't think we're talking about millions of dollars here to set up in-helmet communication. I mean,
that's the way they're talking about it, though, is what I was saying, Blue. It's just weird. You know what I mean?
Like FCS programs mic up players all the time. Like what are we doing?
Right? it's crazy. But yeah, I'm with you on it. And Jim is just crazy. Yeah. But it also smacks of that this is the NCAA. They definitely, I think they want to drop the hammer on them. But it's just that they're going to take forever. That's because they always do. In the end, who's going to listen? You know what I mean? And who's going to listen to them at this point? Why would you even? I mean, I'm not saying that it's not wrong that they have a whole operation sting thing going on where they're, filming people's sidelines. I get that. In the end, everybody's trying to steal each other's signs. I don't have a problem with that part of it. It's the way that they're doing it. It's clearly that they're way out there. And, even Franklin was talking about, he goes, there's, we're in a run set and there's no way that they would know. And they're signaling pass over there because they knew our signals. It was clear. This has been going on for a while, but I think a lot of it has to do with it's a witch hunt because Harbaugh's been talking so much trash about the NCAA that they're going to find something. Because, I don't know. But the more you hear about it, the more you're like, wow, wow.
It's grimy.
They
but
weren't even smart enough to like hide it better. You left a paper trail like that.
He said, man, he was hungry, man. He needed that hot dog at the concession stand, used a company credit card, bought gas on the Amex. Like, I mean, it's just like all kind of dumb decisions. Like,
They
that's
had
what makes
video of everybody that took video of the. I mean, they knew about it beforehand. They were watching this guy and his credit cards. So the seats that were bought were getting videoed for 2-3 years now. It's what the hell? Come on, guys.
I'm not even mad. I'm not even mad about the cheating because everyone cheats. I'm mad at bad cheating, like dumb cheating.
Dude.
Like, this is crazy. I mean, I don't think the NCAA is really going to come. They'll come down on, like I said on, I forgot what show I said on. They'll come down on the guy who did it. Sadly, I think Harbaugh's going to get away with almost nothing. Which
what does he care? He could
like,
just leave and go to the NFL. He's waiting on that job anyway.
All the little assistants that kind of got told what to do and they're trying to work their way up the corporate ladder, those are the guys that are going to get their careers cut out from under them and kind of be like the fall guys for all this. But like the Harbaughs, the ADs, the Michigan brand, man, you can't touch them. And it's sad that it's going to end up like that. But also change your calls. It's the same thing I say with baseball. If you're using the same signals all season long, that's your fault.
You ain't trying to cheat. You ain't trying.
Hey man, this has been a fun show, man. Thank y'all for taking time out of your schedule to join us. Thank y'all for tuning in. Jason, man, let everybody know where they can find you at.
Hall of Fame College Football with Jason and the Coach. We are at CFB-pod on YouTube, hofmedia.us on the internet, and then right there, as you can see on Twitter, it's at JW_HOF. Man, I really appreciate it coming on the show, man. This is a lot of fun. Thanks a lot, guys. Kelly, good to meet you, man. And Zach, again, always good to get to hang out with you guys.
For sure, man.
For sure. Blue, Kelly, what y'all got coming up?
Man, just football. I mean, not traveling this weekend, man, but listen, 2 times a week, Coach's Corner. Check out the new SI site, si.com/college/FCS, man. But other than that, I can't believe it's already November, man. I'm sick. Football season's almost over, and I know I already heard people talking about college basketball, and I'm like, I blocked them. I was like, I don't even want to hear it right now. Don't even bring up college basketball right now.
Man. Yeah. It goes too quick. It takes too long to get here and goes too fast when it does.
But this season felt like it went way faster than any other season I've witnessed before. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's like I just woke up and it was week 8. Kind of weird, but I'm glad we're getting football. I'm glad all of the top stars are still healthy. I'm glad we're able to still see it. As far as me, on Sunday, I'll be on Twitter Spaces, talking with my SIAC guys, Division II HBCU football. We'll be on there. Last week, it was like 4 hours. So we'll be on there just talking about all the drama and what's going on in SIAC football. And then on Monday, I'll drop a HBCU Flicks, man, about 30 minutes, HBCU football recap every week, man, on the Lace Up Podcast Network on YouTube.
So, all right. Hey, thank y'all for tuning in. For those of you who came over from Jason, I appreciate y'all watching. And we'll see y'all again next Friday, man. We out.